I think we are live too.
Huh?
Maybe? Maybe? Yes, no?
I don't know if
Trying to hear
anyone's
myself.
in there, but I can see it when I on my setup.
Oh, yeah, we're live.
Is it?
We don't even know. Yeah, we're good. I just heard myself talk on the stream.
I just stole yours.
There we go. Well, look
I
at
saw
that.
it in there and I said, let's see if I can just steal it.
That's smart. All right. We're here.
Um, all right. Are there people in here? This is our last try. It should work though.
Yeah, Dom's Wi-Fi is much more trustworthy than mine.
Um, all right. There's disclosed for the 15th time putting the question in. Um, good afternoon. Good evening, some would even dare to say.
Mm-hmm.
Have a sip of the old water. Let people filter in for the last time. Yeah, someone said bringing up Huddy. I'm not sure what he was doing today. If he's okay. I saw him place trades, but he never showed up in the morning or
Yeah.
let us know what he was doing. It's what 7 a.m. for him now in Guadalajara.
In
But good
in the
evening.
Koreas.
Let's cut right to it because it's 7:18, and I don't want to go till 9. Um, how's everybody doing out there? Let
Doing
people
good.
filter
If I,
in. We'll go right
if I had to
into.
guess,
Oh, you go, sir.
sorry, as I've had to guess, Huddy was just sleeping in or grabbing dinner. He was off living in the Koreas, doing
One of the
something.
Koreas.
Yeah, somewhere, something.
Um. All right, let's just get right into it. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Looking forward to getting to 10,000 subs on the YouTube channel. We didn't just cancel or switch the stream because there was someone in here bashing us a bit. We can take it, I promise, but let's try to keep it positive. Comments and questions only. Leave the criticisms at home. We're doing a free show for you guys. We're taking time away on our Wednesday nights here to help you guys out, entertain you a bit, talk about the market, doing things that we love to do, which is talk about the stock market, even though it's been kind of tough. Drummer Max says tough market overall. Not going to disagree there. I think Kyle has kind of steadied his ship right now. I'm in the process of hoping to do the same, at least taking a lot less trades these days and trying to click less buttons until I can get some momentum back. So we shall see on that kind of. I talked to Kyle this morning, post the good morning stream. It's just like can't get to that final stage. I'm in trades that are working into the afternoon, into after hours, just not getting that final, 10-hour plus type of move. And, even on something like SGN this morning, it's just like the way they kind of fail and how they fail, just not leaving a ton on the table for me right now. And that's fine. That happens across all markets. You just ideally want to have some winners every now and then, have some bigger winners, but I'm kind of taking the path of trying to take less trades right now, decrease the severity of a drawdown, and wait for some momentum. The overall market seemed to be in a chop fest zone, coming off the most recent low again. It's just kind of a bouncy ball there. Maybe one day in the few weeks we break out of this and we get a month or two of some momentum. We're running out of the pre-part of the year, Kyle, where we generally expect the market to be kind of fruitful. This time last year, in about a
Right.
month, the overall market kind of took a tumble. And I at least think last year was quite consistent across every month where we had opportunities right up until the end, November and December. So this either means one of the greatest summers of all time or just a really slow overall year. And we can start there. We can start with a question. We can skip that overall. But any thoughts? I know they're not different. We've had similar thoughts for weeks and
Yeah.
weeks now.
I mean, we'll see what just the year brings. It's obviously too hard to really guess or tell, but what I can say is the fear is, yeah, we have like a 2022 like market, which would be okay. I think most profitable traders would survive. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Like trading's already tough as it is, but then put it in an even more tougher environment than the baseline, it starts to get even more energy intensive than it already is. And the last 3 or 4 months if the last 3 or 4 months is a glimpse of what's the next 12, I am really not excited. I would be terrified. So again, unlikely, but that's worst case scenario. Right? Because I do agree with you. You said, Dom, it's like usually the start of the year is like really good. This would be the first year in my career where I'm starting off not good. In fact, the full polar opposite in the direction of where you would go. Like usually January, February are like the best historical months for me, where it's literally bottom left to top right in terms of an equity curve. And we used to, I can say more confidently for February, we are no longer part of that trend, the opposite of that. But January, we started, top left to bottom right. We went full unprofitable, as clear and as cut as you can make it. So hopefully that's the end of that, and February is on the beginning of that recovery. But we'll see. It's tough out there. I know a lot of traders taking a break after the said tough, rough few months. So only time will tell. But yeah, different times for sure.
All right. Assuming no booze for you today, just a water.
Water, and then I have 20% of a protein smoothie left.
Very exciting
from when I worked out today. Yeah.
All right. Disclosed. We'll get his question answered before we have to end the stream, start over, and he has to type it again. Hey, guys. Thanks for everything you do. Appreciate kind words. We do appreciate a lot more kind words than we dislike mean words. But once you started seriously pursuing day trading, did it always feel like a dream job in the making? What thoughts or experiences gave you that confidence trading? Very few times I feel like has it felt like a dream job. Only during the hot stretches, I would think like 2020, 2021, where... Because I feel like we were all finding our footing in 2016, 17, 18, 19, even though we started becoming pretty profitable and making good money in those late teens. I think we were still kind of in full grind mode of just kind of like happy that it's working. I know that's at least what it felt like for me. It's always kind of funny during the most fun times in trading. I generally do the least amount of life, spend the least amount of time with friends and family, and it doesn't feel like a dream job, I guess. You look at what Kellogg went through when he was making his bajillions in 2020 and 2021, at the desk from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m., not eating right, not going outside. Like, it didn't look like a dream job. And I'll tell you what, certainly when the market's this slow and you want opportunities and it's not there, it doesn't feel like a dream job when you're red on a month and anyone who does any job for any dollars an hour makes more than you. Yeah, I don't know. A dream job in the making. It's so hard for a long time, that you kind of feel like you earn your stripes. And what thoughts or experiences gave you that confidence trading? I think just successful results, figuring out what the system looks like for you, doing it consistently over a long period of time and seeing the results, seeing the bottom left to top right on a P&L chart versus what all of our P&L charts look like at the beginning, which is sideways or slightly down. So confidence comes from success, but knowing also and humbling yourself enough to know that isn't necessarily always the trajectory you'll be on.
Yeah. When I hear dream job, I get why you would view it that way, and you view it correctly in the sense that, yes, like I would imagine Dom and myself and a lot of traders who pursued trading and made it happen for themselves did reach a level of satisfaction in terms of, okay, wow, I've set myself towards a goal that's very hard for most people to achieve, and then once you do achieve it, you actually can make life-changing money, and it changes your life for practically ever. And then you're your own boss, you kind of live your own schedule, etc., and you live what you can call the happily ever after of like you're retired, but you just work because you want to, right? I just don't think that exists though without the cost of what most people realize what trading is, which is like a battlefield every day. It doesn't come without extreme energy spent and over time, a very deep love and hate relationship. To the point, I mean, like Lance is a perfect example. Like Lance is someone who's made literally forget like life altering money. Forget like how about generational altering money? Like he's made more money than the majority of people will ever make across multiple generations of family members, right? And he actually, I think he made a video about this like a week or two ago. It's like, but it didn't come without him literally giving up portions of his health to the point where he really doesn't want to trade anymore. As badly as he tries, or as badly as sometimes where he doesn't want to but still ends up doing it, like he's trying to be a teacher more than a trader because to keep him away from actually doing the trading part. Because it's like not worth giving up his health for another 10 million when he's already made 100 of them. You know what I mean? The one instance though, specifically to your question though, of like when did you feel that way or have confidence in your trading? I remember excuse me. I remember mentioning this before, but the biggest moment I had for me on that regard was when COVID happened and people who had like quote unquote stable 9-to-5s were getting fired. And here I was having no boss that could fire me. All it was up to me whether I was just going to be profitable or not. That's when like the script flipped on its head and was like, whoa, I actually feel more secure than everyone who thought they were secure. But again, that's just in a very brief moment in history where it just got a little scary for a year or two, right? Or a year and a half. But other than that, I mean, it doesn't come without sacrifice and or pros and cons, opportunity costs or just sacrifices. Is it worth it if you love trading? Absolutely, totally. But I just don't want to paint the guise of like, oh, I want to give you the answer of like, oh my gosh, dream job, I love it so much, it's the best thing ever, I am so healthy and mentally and my emotions are always unchecked and it's so awesome and I can just do whatever I want, which yes happens a good portion of the time. But the flip side is this is the most draining thing I've ever done, and I've actively done it a lot of last year and a lot of this year, is to put money into other places to where I don't have to trade if I don't want to. Right? Like it's one thing to say that I have their money, and I'm kind of going on a tangent here, so this will be my last point. But it's kind of one thing to say, okay, I've made enough millions of dollars where I could just live off of, I can just put that in the S&P 500 and withdraw 5% a year for the rest of my life and live off that, right? But that's like using the money. I was trying to go a step further. It's like, how do I create a moat to where that money makes me more money and I just live off that money. I still get to keep the nest egg versus slowly bleeding it to zero, how most retirees do, because why wouldn't you? But I'm too young, right? I just turned 30. And at the rate inflation goes, which I'm pretty sure all of us should be aware now how inflation goes, especially in the last 4 years, I don't think I can retire, reality-wise. And so building a moat or putting money elsewhere to then make me a salary that I then literally don't have to trade would be the best, I think, health thing from a job, like all encompassing what you're saying, the job portion, the trade-offs, the risk reward, the pros and cons. It's like, I think building that for myself puts me in a very nice sweet spot where it's like, I still do what I love, which is trade, but I'll never have to let it become too much where it stresses me out too much, or it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't make this much money, I can't retire by 60. It's like, because again, I'm doing well for myself at my age. But it would be foolish of me to think I can just stop and live off the money I've made for the next 65 years, because it's just not true. Given the fact that 100 grand, I could live off 100 grand a year easily, but doing it 30 years from now, 50 years from now, it's almost a mathematical certainty that's not going to be possible. So yeah. Anyways, I'm babbling on, but you get the point. Hopefully you're picturing kind of where we're going in terms of that question, or when the thoughts that evoke that question when I read it. So
it's also like, I just don't think we can stop. I told you that earlier. I'm like, dude, I want to quit so bad, but I can't ever. The emotional, it's like every night, even on the worst days or during these stretches, like I'm having one of the worst stretches, just not necessarily in terms of dollar amount, just because I've sized down over the years, but if I was risking what I was risking a couple of years ago, this would definitely be the one of the worst periods for me to start a year. And it's just like the emotional toil. It's like I know I'm resilient, and that's a good thing, but like how low I feel like after the market close sometimes to how excited I am in the morning to trade again is like disturbing. Like I don't know how I would stop, like barring 50 million. Um,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm 30 and I don't really feel like being a different type of business owner. Like we've talked about that before.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It's a weird type of dream job. Like I couldn't imagine doing anything else, but like maybe cook. Okay. Maybe chef, but you got to work your way up. And I don't know if at
You had
30 I want
mentioned
to
that.
go and work those type of hours at this age with a family and such. But, yeah, it's one of those things where we're definitely addicted, even when it's tough. All right, next question. Mac or Arnak? I can't tell if it's Mac or Arnak. I did mute that person. I'm sorry, guys. I can handle the criticism and the hate. And if you didn't learn anything from us, if you've ever popped in, I apologize that you're not being forced to do anything. We're just trying to hang out here on a Wine Wednesday. And so I don't really need the constant, every time I look over at negativity. There's enough negativity out there in the world. I just want to have fun for an hour. A couple people talking about stocks. Are you going to Traders for a Cause? I think Huddy is.
Me and Huddy will be there.
Both of
Yep.
you? All right.
Yep.
That's in
If you
Florida
are,
now.
yeah, it's in Miami this year. First time in Miami, the big annual one. If you are going, do not hesitate to come reach out. I've had people before be like, yeah, I saw you, but I didn't say anything. It's like, what? That's the point. So do not hesitate. Come say hi. That's really what the conference is for, to connect and socialize and, have a good time. So
Okay. Can you explain the wide stop loss on the gap and crap strategy, please and thank you? You kind of
from my
nailed it
understanding, say it again.
there. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I could describe it is that well, actually, I'll put it this way. I'll give it to you in my own perception or my own worldview of why it actually got me to even try that strategy. Because prior to gap and craps, I never ever approached any trade plan with a percentage risk. Right? Like, and this happens all the time to beginners. Beginners will tell me, hey, I'm taking breakouts and I'm only risking 5%, or I'm shorting this stock, but I'm risking 10%. I'm like, what, 10% of your account? And they're like, no, 10% of the stock price. I'm like, why? Because like normally 99 times out of 100, the actual key support or resistance levels are what matter most, not some arbitrary 5% stop loss away from your entry. Like the stock doesn't care, right? So picking the right key levels is what's more important. Gap and craps, though, was the first setup that came to my attention where it's like risking a set percentage could actually be more beneficial, only because the variance can be so large, but yet still work, right? Like if you ask me what a breakout looks like, the overall majority of almost all the best breakouts have a very similar look, right? Or you ask me all the best red days, all of them have a very similar look. Yeah, give or take a few permutations or a few variations, like they all generally follow the same theme. Whereas when you ask me to figure out what gap and craps work or don't work, I could draw you practically every looking chart intraday possible. I can draw you up, down, up, down, then down. I can draw you down, up, sideways, do nothing for an hour, then down, up. Like there is so much variance as to how and when and why they move, only for most of them to lead down lower than where they started in the morning, right? To the point where it is like I don't feel comfortable risking the day high because it could easily break and then go lower in an hour. It could easily break pre-market highs then go lower an hour. It can go up for an hour just because it wants to make all new highs, but then all of a sudden, once that's over, then it goes down. So it's like picking a wide enough stop to avoid that choppiness and stick around and not be, chopped up for the end result is ultimately where it convinced me why I would have to trade it that way. Now, I know traders who don't do that at all, and they do try to pick key spots. They are okay cutting and then reshorting if they like it again, or picking some kind of high a day or pre-market high. But that's just not me. I'm just not that good, right? I'm just not that talented at picking those spots for those gap and crappers. So, it's not the end all. You don't have to be a wide risk approach. It's not necessarily there's not like only one way to do it, but that's just the way that's the only way I can be profitable with them. Put it that way. So.
Very nice. Yeah, and that's kind of how it is with any strategy, right? Once you start to have seen hundreds, if not thousands of examples, and it's kind of the way you described it, where it's like, draw me a successful looking gap and crap, and it's like there are this many variations of it. You could do the same thing with first red days, same things with breakouts, same things with reversals. And once you kind of have an idea of what success looks like, you can adjust your plan. And this is what we talk about when we mean like consistency in your approach. What is and it's not always this perfect, but what's a one size fits all strategy that I can apply to this pattern that's going to keep me in all the winners long enough to make a good return, and make sure that I'm stopped out of all the things that fail. And there are definitely people that trade gap and craps that don't have wide risk, that wait for breakdowns and risk high a day, that short parabolics or strength into pre-market. Like, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. But if you're looking at it from a true systematic, like a lot of people we know are doing it with like algorithms. They're not even clicking the buttons, and you're not really reading price action when you're not clicking the buttons yourself. And so I've seen people use 20, 30, 40% plus. I think I've even seen data sheets with higher risks, but it's just a way to keep you involved. And we certainly have patterns where risk is a whole lot tighter. One of the things that person said was bashing a 40% win rate, which I'm pretty sure Kyle's is much higher than that. But simple
Way
math
higher.
would tell you that a 40% win rate, I get excited thinking about a 40% win rate, like what you could do with that. But different systems have different types of stops associated with them. PHUK, maybe. Oh, geez, I almost blurted that out. I was trying to figure out how to say it. I was about to say it hard, like real clear as day. P-Huck, what strategies do you trade to the long side? Any mentors at Clover strictly trade the long side? I'm about, but I could tell you the number based off last year's stats, probably 85 to 90% long. Does their data sheet have that on the year-end thing?
Yeah, if you go, if you filled it out on the yearly review, let's see if it has it there. I'm pretty sure it does. Maybe I don't have it. I know I have OTC versus NASDAQ, so you can see how frequent that is. Maybe I don't have it. There. Yeah, I don't actually have it.
It's on a monthly basis, though, isn't it?
Let's double check that. I think yes, it is on a monthly basis. Interesting. I didn't realize I didn't have that on the yearly basis.
Huh. Yeah. But I primarily trade on the long side. And what was it? Patterns. And Huddie is doing a lot of this these days as well on the long side. Mostly, I think, just trading gap and crappers and breakouts. But multi-day breakouts, stuff like... is my chart here still? Oh, it is there. Money. Something like MLEC today. Multi-day breakout over recent highs. Kind of lined up a multiple. SGN, which is actually one Kyle took as well. And Huddie, breaking out over this 35-cent area. Continuing into today. So that's primarily what I do, and what I'm looking for is basically just recent runs and looking for consolidation near those highs and then breaking out over those levels. I traded most of my career first green days and reversals, where basically looking at a lot of these stuff that runs massively, stuff like a QNCX like last week, where you get these moves from, what was that, from 10 cents to a buck. Big multi-day run, massive volume, traded over 1 billion shares on day one, and then has its backside, and today bounced back pretty significantly, 15 cents, 23. I didn't trade it. It's a pattern I don't do a ton of right now because it hasn't really been working during this choppy market. But basically mean reversion stuff on the long side, as well as just continuation plays. A lot of what that's not right. Kyle is trying to do with his swing style, but more of like a 1 to 2 day hold type of stuff.
Is that a question, or is it, or just talking about the long side question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just talking.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't a question.
Oh, to P-Hucks. Yeah, there's no one strictly long, right? Even if Dom is like 85% long, there's still a little bit of shorting right there. And yeah, even though I'm probably the opposite, where I'm like 80 to 85% short, there are still some longs, specifically on the swing side. It's again, so far the last 3 months have been tough because the markets are just super choppy and range bound. But when they're not that and they trend really well, then yeah, like a ton of multi-week, multi-month swings that I put on to become winners are really fun to be a part of. And that is a big long portion. Like put it this way, even though the number of trades I've taken are majority short, I think for 2024 and 2025, at least a third of my year has come from longs. So it's like I take less longs, but they're hopefully and ideally statistically more quality. Because it's interesting to look at stats like that, where it's like, let's say I only take 15% of my trades are longs, but they're 30% of my profits. But 85% of my trades are shorts, but only account for 70% of my profits, kind of thing. And so that's kind of where my stack of my backhand and forehand kind of meet. So,
Which one's your backhand?
Longs.
Okay, makes sense. What do you serve with?
My forehand.
Why so long shorts?
Yeah.
Mom and Dad says hard to trust momentum trade AI quantum robotics space photonics biotech. I mean WTF? What the F?
A lot of sectors out there.
Anthony says one red day the first 6 weeks of the year. Account was up 80%. And now I've had back-to-back red days. Thank you for all that you do. You guys have helped me a lot. Appreciate it. Those are nice. You're doing the right things. If you are one red day in the first 6 weeks, it's pretty incredible.
It's pretty
good. That's not what my calendar looks like. What scanner do you guys use and what are your settings? Over the years, it has gotten much more simplified. When I'm running like the scanner that we use on like Good Morning NASDAQ, that one is set to like, I don't even know if I just scale it from the top, like what's up the most, like literally just the biggest runners with like a minimum of $5 to $10 million, 5 to 10 million shares traded. And then pre-market, at the end of the day, I just go straight to like Weeble's scanner. I don't use Weeble, but I use them for my like our webinars at Clover and like my watch list building at night. And they have like a little tab that just says top gainers, and I hit the tab from the top to show me all the biggest movers in the market, and I just funnel through that really quickly and look at all the charts. Where the main goal of my scanning and Kyle's scanning is to find the biggest runners in small cap land. What is moving the most right now? And does it at this point fall into a category of a pattern that I trade, or is it something I just need to be aware of going forward because it's trading massive volume, it has a catalyst, and it's making big move? So those are the settings are really just, I would probably have some sort of minimum volume so that way you're not seeing a bunch of liquid crap. But really, anything up 20, 30% plus at the end of the day, I'm probably going to take a look at for a second or two. And in the markets we've been in the past year or two, there's usually only 10 or 15 a day to go through.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'd probably keep it even more broad, where it's like I'm really just looking for 10 to 15% up, and then yeah, I mean I'll have some volume requirements per se, but I'd rather keep them really low and then filter myself through the charts than having maybe volume requirements that are too high, and maybe because of that I miss one ticker or one trade or one look of a stock that I wish I had, seen, or I wish I would have seen if my criteria was low. So I'd rather keep it really broad, and then, like as Dom said, we've been doing it for so long now where we can look at a chart within seconds, know if it's even something we remotely care about. So I'd rather just speed round through a bunch of charts than diminish my watch or diminish my scanner to only having 10 stocks. I'd rather find 30 and then look through those that way. So big percent gainers is really the main focus there.
Wally actually has a pretty good question. How many trades do you guys take a year? If less is more, why do people trade so much? Do you have that on the yearly? That's not on there either.
Let's see. How many trades do you take a year? Well, the reason I never put on the yearly is because if you just scroll down to the very last trade, you can see how many sells that is, and then you just know that's how many trades you've taken.
How many cells?
Like how many rows of
Oh,
sells you're in, So like 2025, I have sells going all the way down to 713, but of course that includes the titles. So you just subtract one of them. So I took 712 trades last year. And I think I took 700 roughly in 2024 as well. I took, let's see. Yeah, I took 741 in 2024.
Does 271 sound right for me?
It could. You're pretty particular on when you like the long or when you like to trade.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to break it down more into like monthly versus yearly because I feel like there are definitely months that we trade significantly more. Like I remember I took like 6 or 7 trades in November. So that's going to bring the number down a bit, but there's definitely months I had 60 to 80. The answer to your question is if less is more, why do people trade so much? They should stop. And almost every, like we haven't had a market so good in the past year or two that I remember, like maybe quantum at the end of 2024, where I'm like, I should have been more aggressive, pushing more buttons, like being more patient. Like less is like almost always more. If you approach every market condition like that, you almost always are going to have very controlled losses, very controlled drawdowns, very controlled risk management tactics. And you're always going to be around the best of the best because you don't have any emotional baggage. You're not dealing with a lot of FOMO because you know exactly what you're looking for in the market. Like the answer to your question is we should all probably trade a little bit less than we do. The problem is we are humans. We click buttons. We stop out of positions that we get fooled and then we want to get back in. If you're Kyle, you have 4 or 5 attempts on a parabolic short before you're allowed to stop.
Yeah. That's not, sorry to cut you off there, but that's also something to note too. Is like, I'm listing off that I'm in the 700 roughly range for the past 2 years of trades. However, with the caveat that when I track a trade, at least in the journaling perspective, that's just one trade. That's just if I traded the ticker on the day. One quote unquote trade tracked could actually be 2 or 3 attempts on the ticker for that day. But again, how do you, if you do end up taking, let's say 4 attempts on ticker XYZ today, when you start doing that on a lot of different tickers or start trading quite frequently, it becomes a massive headache to then say, oh my gosh, okay, 4 different trades. Okay, let me get the average for the first entry. Let me get the average for the exit of the second time. And all of a sudden you'll be there for so long. It is the biggest headache versus just letting a broker tell you your average in, average out for that ticker for that day. You can take a screenshot knowing, or you can record your screen knowing how you traded it. And so you can just refer to it then that way. So even though, let's say, I've taken roughly 700-ish trades the last 2 years, it's probably got to be maybe 1,000 realistically, because there are so many other instances where I am going to be giving something a second try. Maybe I'm first taking a small loser, then a small winner. Maybe I'm locking in a gain and then give some back. It's too unknown to know, or vice versa. If you're a scalper, my God, you're going to have tens of thousands of trades. You can take 50 in a day and you won't even blink an eye, right? So keep that in mind with strategy and or how you track.
Yeah, but that's literally a main goal of mine every month is like, how can I do less? How can I take less trades? How can I not throw away money on random starters, like situations where I'm not full size? Like there's so many rule breaks that kind of go hand in hand with me taking too many trades. And a lot of it comes down to the psychological, where I think it just wears you out. The more buttons you click and you get nothing out of it, it makes your most valuable button clicks, your best setups, less valuable, I feel like, over time. And so there's certainly strategies where, like gap and craps, the name of the game is get as many down as you possibly can. Kyle swing trade, get as many down as you can that fit criteria. You're going to naturally trade a lot more setups. When I trade gap and crappers for stretches, it increases my daily amount to like 1 to 3 extra trades a day. And so you got to make sure you're aware of what your stats mean, like Kyle's saying. Because if that number increases, but you added a pattern that you're going to trade a lot more because the system needs it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But when it comes to your big risk reward type of trades, like, you know, your BYNDs for Kyle on the short side, your, I don't even know a recent one, but, you know, something like IBRX, that's a big daily chart on the long side. Like, you know, those are the ones you plan on making a lot, risking a little, and your more higher conviction stuff. So if we waited for a lot of those based on the stats of how much we make on the amount of trades we take, it usually always works out that less is more. Is there a contact phone number on Clover Trading? Don't believe so. You can always contact support.
Yeah, the email's best, support@clovertrading.io. You may emailing them back and forth get a phone number where it's like sometimes people who apply for the mentorship end up getting on a phone call. So there's that. But no, there's not just like a phone number that's like on our website that you can just start dialing.
I'll just put Kyle's phone number in there.
Yeah, so 734. No, just kidding.
That's funny. That's actually an area code close to me.
Oh, is it really? I just totally threw random numbers at you.
Do you guys still use E-Trade? I don't quite like Power E-Trade Pro. You are not alone. There was a lot of people. You know, I have on my screen right now E-Trade Pro, and I don't know if it's because they just let me still use it for a couple more months or what. I don't trade there anymore. The charts look great. The reason I like it for Good Morning Nasdaq up here is because on gappers, it shows the candle in pre-market on the daily chart. And that really helps visually versus like DOS in my Webull charts where it just shows a blank. And I don't know if that's a setting that you can change on like DOS. But, geez. I just have something stuck there. But I think Kyle every now and then trades with them. But now I've kind of shifted over my watch list building and stuff over to Webull. I kind of like the cloud-based stuff on it, but no, I don't use E-Trade.
They unfortunately have lost business, which includes myself. I still technically have an E-Trade account. Like I didn't shut down the account, but once E-Trade Pro vanished, I honestly, a little bit lazy of me. I didn't even bother trying. The E-Trade Power Pro, whatever it is.
I've heard horrible things.
Yeah, I've heard horrible things. I don't even care. I also, correct me if I'm wrong, Dom. It's like you have to actually be on the web. Like you have to be on the internet to do it versus like a desktop app. Maybe they have a desktop app, but either way, it was like
yucky. And everything is yucky. My thing is like if you needed to switch over for whatever reason, they should have just basically made the same type of software over there, and it's like entirely different.
Yeah. So
and I'm just
since since that happened, I have not traded with them since. I've wired all my money out of E-Trade. I still have some money with them from like my Roth account, but I've really also stopped trading in my Roth. I've kind of just taken an easier like investment approach there too. So they've really say again.
Just buying PP?
Sure.
PP coin?
Bitcoin? No, they can't. They don't let me buy that in there, unfortunately. But I wouldn't invest in that either long term. But yeah. So then, in general, the activity over there is the lowest it's ever been for me.
Good evening, gents. What were your biggest mindset obstacles, and how did you get to overcome them? I feel like there's probably been severe obstacles throughout the 10-year journey I've been on. Big drawdowns, big losses. Yeah, obviously the initial onset of the first 10 months of being unprofitable and losing money and blowing up accounts. So every moment in my career, I feel like you're always fighting some different demon for whatever reason. But biggest mindset obstacles. If you have one off the top of your head, you can go.
I'm trying to think a little harder. Mindset obstacles?
Maybe it's worded in a way that's not giving me a simple answer.
How do you overcome them? Well, the continuous one is like accepting bigger risks. It's accepting the fact that, hey, if I'm risking $1,000 today, how do I start risking $2,000 a year from now or 6 months from now? And then so I have to like slowly incrementally increase my risk to like furtherly get comfortable with those new levels of risk that I'm taking. That to this day, and has always been for the last few years, the biggest obstacle. Not even obstacle. It's just it's always an uphill battle. There's never a time where you're like, you get to the top and you're like, okay, it's easy now. Unless you're a robot, which some people seem to be. But like I'm pretty comfortable taking 10K losers, 10 to 15K worst case. It's like me losing 20K on average would not be fun. And it's not fun because even then I've still taken plenty of 20K losers, but it's like when that happens, I'm like not comfortable about it at all. But there would be a time where it's like, I'd like to be okay with that. But again, that's going to take at least a year, at least for me to really develop that new ground level of emotional acceptance of that kind of a risk. Something more difficult maybe in the beginning. God, it's just been too long. It's just been, it's almost 10 years since I started.
For me, I'll take it from you for a second before I forget. I almost already might have forgotten. Oh, no. For me, a big obstacle that I had in the beginning and even comes in and out of my mind as we go through different market cycles is that there is just limitations to what I can do in the market and who I am. I think, like, I know, and you guys hear me talk like I'm always talk like I'm the dumbest trader ever, which is why I think it's so easy to learn from me and why I have so many successful students is because I try to break things down super simple because I am not some genius prodigy trader. I'm not a Dux. I'm not a Jack. I don't even, and this would be high praise for me for Kyle. Is I don't think Kyle is one of those people either, but for other reasons, he's kind of at the toppest level of tier that I'm not quite at yet either, mostly because of that sizing thing and his ability to do that obstacle that he just talked about. But just knowing that I'm not a jack of all trades, I can't do everything. There are a lot of things that I will just never quite understand. I've read level 2 guys for 10 years. Okay. For anyone who just tells you just need to read it and watch it and stuff, like it doesn't make sense to me. It might as well be Chinese. Like I can understand simple things like turns and stuff for OTCs and understanding where size is and what that may or may not be able to do to stocks. But it's not, I've really structured my trading systems around that inability to I think I have a problem with just putting all the pieces together really quickly on high volatility plays, low float stocks moving really fast. It's hard for me to put all the pieces together, which is why a lot of my systems are built for patience and built for a little bit wider risk and allowing that chop to happen and me not make decisions based off of it. And that's always an obstacle for me because it makes me feel less of a trader, less cool. I maybe you never hear me brag about a stock or call something out or be all cocky about a position because I truly do go into every trade expecting to lose based off my win rate and I don't have a ton of conviction in any individual play. So I think that's always kind of been an obstacle for me is just do what I do best, right? Follow the system every single day, keep losses small, let winners be big and let them run. And that's what works over time. So, and that's something that I feel like I've dealt with from the beginning to even now, because as you get more experience, you want to do more things. You see people doing different strategies, people trading day ones, people shorting gap and craps, people trading the Chinese pump stuff, back in 2022. There's just so much out there. And I think realizing that I can't do it all. And even if I wanted to, there's not enough of me to do more than a couple things every single day. And I think that is something a lot of beginners struggle with that keeps them from ever really reaching their potential by trying to do too much.
There we go. Yeah, I can't, as much as I'd like to give you go back in the beginning. I mean, it was more the struggles of just how tough it was. Like, I can't really put a name on what that struggle is, but just constantly losing. And this is your, like, if it's like your first $6,000 account, right? Like it was for me. It's like, that mental battle every day, which is what brings us back to what me and Dom were talking about at the beginning of the stream, which is like the dream job aspect. Like even when from the beginning till now, it has always been a love-hate relationship. That's the only way you can do it, really, because you're going to hate it at some point because everyone's going to have and take losses and get beaten up so many times that like you have to love it to keep going. Otherwise, you're just not going to do it. You're just going to go find something else to do that isn't as emotionally or financially painful at times. So, ways to overcome it. It's like you have to love it. You've got to love it. Because if you don't, it's just going to be hate. And you're just going to hate it. And you're going to stop. So.
All right. Dom, did you take IBRX today for the daily breakout? I did. I have like an average at the breakout level, not a lot of size because of how much I ran into it. Oh, I had a really good position going the other day on like Thursday when it kind of broke out of its downtrend and kind of had a green day through all that resistance. And then what day was that? Yeah, then Thursday. We had the ugliest wick through those highs and then closed down under 6. And then today it does the candle that I was looking for. So kind of stupid. Nothing really going to happen there for me. Maybe it gaps up and it continues into tomorrow. Good gap history following big volume days. And it's a big daily breakout. I don't know. We'll see if they make that one easy or not, but I am in it. Sly says, well, J-Bone's talking about retirement is officially March 13th. It'll be a sad day. I'll have to figure out something else for Good Morning NASDAQ. Sly says, if you could give one trait to an unprofitable trader to make them profitable, what would it be? I could give them one thing. It would be pick one thing, one pattern, one rule, maybe 2 or 3 rules. Write it down on a piece of paper and give yourself 6 weeks. And don't your trading journey is done if you break a rule. Your trading journey is done if you go outside your system. Your trade this is something it's weird. I feel like beginners they give themselves so much wiggle room and privilege and leash to break rules, to not cut losers, to trade unnecessary patterns. You want to really know if you have what it takes. Pick one pattern, maybe 2 if you've been studying for a while. Only allow yourself to trade that. Only allow yourself to trade from a watch list. And don't break any rules. Buy when you say you're going to buy or short. Risk where you're going to say you risk, and stick to a very simple exit plan. Like, I know that's like stupid stuff, but I don't even know if me or Kyle or Huddie does that on a consistent basis, like all the time. Like, I certainly know in January I wasn't following that system, those rules. And it's what I always go back to whenever I start to struggle is like I write down, and I have a journal, like a diary almost, of the past few years. And I'll bet you can find the same page written in different words every 6 months. It's basically, these are my new rules. And they're just the same rules I've had before that I want to live by that I've gotten away from. And it's just do an experiment. It's like, I'm going to be perfect for 6 weeks and I'm going to see the results. And you almost always find out that the results work, because if you're trading a profitable pattern and you have a good system in terms of how you want to execute on it, it's usually a bunch of other crap that's causing you to be unprofitable.
Yeah. It's tough to narrow it down to one. I agree with yours. That's a good one. If I had to add a different one, I would argue attention to detail would be pretty darn up there. Like obviously discipline, but I think that everyone's going to say discipline, and that already ties into what you kind of said, Dom, which is like being willing to stick to a plan no matter what. But I would say attention to detail. I can't tell you how many times I have caught, even myself sometimes, or just people in general, like setups work because there's very specific criteria, right? And the human brain will play tricks on us, tricks on yourself, and tricks on the people of like justifying why you can deviate or why you can even ignore, the exact criteria as to what you need for it to be valid to make money, right? And I wish I had like a list of details that people don't pay attention to, but it's like I've just seen it so many times where it's like we say, you need this kind of amount of volume, and then what do they do the very next day? They don't wait for that kind of amount of volume. Where it's like you need to wait for this exact price to be hit. What do? They don't wait for that exact price to be hit. And that could tie into the discipline thing, but sometimes it's like we know it's attention to detail because they just don't care to know the details. They don't care to really know a setup like the back of their hand kind of thing. So I would say that it's like having an attention to detail to want to know the ins and outs of things. Now, too much detail could hurt you. Like we've also met people who are like, they want to know exactly why a stock spiked at this very second of the day. And it's like, listen, that level of detail, we can't tell you. I have no idea why a stock would go up at any given moment of the day because you never can tell how many people are buying or selling. There's too many transactions. It's like, or people love finding out if this is a short squeeze or not. Like, oh, is our shorts going to get squeezed here? Is this a short squeeze? Like, well, you never can tell, but it's the other kinds of details. It's like what constitutes an edge being there, what criteria needs to be set up correctly for that edge to be present, and things like that of that nature, I would say are pretty damn important. So,
yeah. J Bones adds, accepting that if you don't properly manage your emotions, you will fail. Yeah, that's why it's an ever going game. Just because you can't just say, okay, I'm good mentally for the rest of my life, let me go trade. You're going to go through highs, lows, tough markets, tough stretches. Like, what happened to me on IBRX, which is just like timing, right? I was a couple days early to an idea that was right? Look at what it did. We'll see if it really works from here or not, but like that stuff's going to happen and you can't always fight against it. You can't always be right. Like, I think there are people out there who think that you can. You're going to get smacked in the face. Stuff's going to suck. You're going to sell a position because you've given it enough time, more than enough time, and then it's just going to work. And you're going to move risk at the wrong time, and you're going to cut it, and then it's like you have to properly manage your emotions. You gotta just play the long game here, because on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of suck. And it's someone who like me with a low win rate, high risk reward, like there's not many happy days every month, even in the best of times. And so your emotions are really important. And yeah, it never ends. It's one of those things. That's why you have to have a system or a blueprint or a foundation to fall back on that says, this is my home base. This is where I go back to when I start to get away from it. Because if not, that's when you hear horror stories. All right, last question or two, and we'll get on out of here. Out and about in the chat room, are you guys live just like in the morning pre-market? Usually get at least one day a week where we'll go through the pre-market, go through our watch list, and then trade out the open and continue to do Q&A like this while we are trading. And then another webinar is usually between 10 and noon post open, where it's focused more about lessons and learning and Q&A. It's always Q&A. You can always Q&A 24/7 whenever you want. We got people in all time zones. Huddie is it tomorrow. Huddie's in tomorrow. Kyle's the sun's still out probably. And I'm bedtime. So someone's always there. All right. Went through phase where I didn't want to take a loss on setups because I knew some setups take a while to set, specifically back in the OTC market. Do you guys have fear of patterns to stop working? I don't think it's like a fear in the way that you're probably asking it. Like I'm right now wondering if like the first Green Day reversal is dead. Like my mind says it can't be, just because it's like most of our patterns are because of a structural like inefficiency in human psychology, not because like the OT swizzle was just like a common, like the liquidation play on China pumps. Like that was a pattern that was kind of taking advantage of, it was like milking it while it was there, it felt like. Whereas like breakouts, like, and I've heard Kwamagi say, like, that's just how stocks move. They go up, they consolidate, then they go higher, or they fade off, right? It's one of the two. And as long as stocks are going to continue to go higher at some point, they're going to break out, right? And first red days, like, we have definitely seen them shift, like in terms of the amount of them that get to that point. Like they can evolve, and whereas you might short them on day 2 now instead of waiting for 3 or 4 days, and it might be into a gap up instead of on a red move. But the idea is still there, right? Stock is overextended, right. Short it for a move lower. Reversal, like the reason I don't think it could be dead is because like it does require, like, it is the lowest volume of the entire run. It is on the backside. Stocks are buried in resistance. Maybe if shorts cover more along, like, it still psychologically feels like stocks don't go straight up and they don't go straight down. So after big moves to the downside, relief bounces are necessary. But it has certainly been cold for like 6 to 8 months now. So do I fear that pattern stop working? I guess no. We've been through lots of different examples. Like you brought up OTCs. Like that was our bread and butter for 2 or 3
They're
years.
gone.
And they were overnight, like in a span of 2 or 3 months, just gonzo. Kyle's experimenting with like mid to large caps on the swing side. Like we are constantly growing and learning and expanding our playbook a little. But I don't really have a fear that that the core will stop. It's more of like small caps. Like I worry more about that. Like just lack of opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a fear. It's almost like an inevitability, which maybe sounds scary as I say it, because I do agree. I think the ones that really deeply drive home human psychology will probably be around for a long time because they've been around for hundreds of years, far beyond our own lifetimes. But yeah, there's also just as much, if not way more, that are here today and will be gone next year or 2 years from now, right? Like, and Yam said, the OTC market. Forget about OTC setups. How about the entire OTC market? Practically, like OTC breakouts don't happen anymore. OTC first red days don't happen anymore. And by happy anymore, I mean frequently. You might get one a year, maybe, or ones that are very illiquid. So you could say they happen, but again, to how many traders can actually participate, kind of thing. So it's not a fear. It's an acceptance that like that's unfortunately the name of the game. So when you have an edge, it's just let it ride as long as you have it. Because and that's the thing too. What are you going to do to try to predict when it ends? Like it could be here for 5 months. It could be here for 50 years. You don't know. So it's just like if you have one, just let it be as it is and just trade it. And let time do the storytelling. So
awesome, fantastic, amazing. Well, folks, we're going to head on out of here. Can't believe tomorrow's Thursday. I don't like the Monday off. Like the fact that we're doing Wine Wednesday.
Quick.
It feels like we just started the week, but like if all weeks were 4-day weeks, we're at halftime. Yeah, I appreciate you guys being here tonight. We'll be live again tomorrow, 8:45 a.m. for some Good Morning Nasdaq. We'll talk through the biggest gappers. It feels like we're flipping the script on that. We've had a couple days worth of decent gappers. Today would have been a good morning because we had a couple of different floats and different stuff running. We'll see what we get for the morning, what we get into the end of the week. But appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate the kind words and the great questions. If you had more questions, don't be afraid to reach out in the room or wait until the morning or the next Wine Wednesday. But Kyle, anything you want to leave them with?
Nope. Just again, yeah. Mentioned a few times, less is more, and keep doing you, staying safe, learning while you're maybe losing a little money. Hopefully, maybe learning while you're making a little money, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right. Have a wonderful night. Goodbye.